Hello friends, what's up? It's Jaime here. Welcome back to another Fangirl Fridays video. This is another one of those videos that I was originally gonna make last year, but then I got really busy with work, also partially me procrastinating. And then the strikes happened and I couldn't talk about the show at the time. But now that I can, today we are talking about the best video game show adaptation that I've seen besides Arcane. And yes, I did see the season 2 poster. I am so excited, but this video is not about Arcane. Today we are talking about The Last of Us. I am a huge fan of The Last of Us franchise. So when they announced that they were making a live action show, I was cautiously excited because it's no secret that video game to show or film adaptations are very much a toss-up. They are either very good or very bad, and there's really no in between, and it really feels like there tends to be more misses than there are hits. So I was pretty nervous about The Last of Us show, but when I found out that Neil Druckmann, the creator of The Last of Us games, was one of the creators of the show, that definitely gave me a little bit more hope and confidence that this wasn't going to be an absolute train wreck. And then I saw who they were casting for all the characters, and that definitely gave me a little bit more hope. I was like, okay, seems pretty good, seems pretty solid. Like, I was starting to allow myself to get a little bit more excited, and in the end, it all paid off because holy shit, this show is so fucking good. Literally everything about this show is so good. Like, I cannot stress enough just how good this show is as an adaptation, but also just as a show in its own right. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about everything that I loved about the show with a particular focus on the queer relationships because they were just amazing, phenomenal, but we'll get to those later. And just in general, all my favorite things from the show. So without further ado, let's get into the video. You can very clearly tell that Neil Druckmann was involved in this show just with how many things turned out so perfectly. I mean, we got the perfect amount of episodes for season 1. The pacing was so good. It felt so reminiscent of the game. It never felt rushed or like it was dragging. The writing was great. I mean, Craig Mazin was such a great addition. Like, him and Neil are such a good team. I loved their individually written episodes. I love the episodes that they wrote together. They are truly a dynamic duo. And of course, the characters. I mean, the characters are what make The Last of Us. So it was so crucial for them to nail the casting, and they completely knocked it out of the park. Rent must have been due or something because literally every single one of the actors, Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, Merle Dandridge, Nick Offerman, Kevon Montreal Woodard, Storm Reed. I mean, this whole cast was so stacked and it really showed in their performances. I also just have to say that I am so unbelievably happy that so many of the original actors from the games were involved in the show. Merle Dandridge, Jeffrey Pierce, we got a Laura Bailey cameo, and of course Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson. Merle Dandridge reprising her role as Marlene. Brilliant, impeccable, literally show-stopping. And casting Ashley Johnson as Anna, Ellie's mother, was literally so genius. I will never be over it. Another thing that the show did that I loved was that they expanded on the lore of how the outbreak started. I really loved the scenes of the mycologists in Indonesia. Oh my gosh, they were so like chilling but also informative. By the way, if you're interested in learning more about the science of how the outbreak started as it is in the show, I would highly recommend watching the game theory episode that Matt Pat did about it. It's one of my favorite game theory episodes. I highly recommend it. Something else that I absolutely loved that the show did was the strong focus on the queer relationships from the games. Because contrary to the belief of the fuckers on Twitter who wanted to rage about the existence of gay and trans characters in The Last of Us has always been really fucking queer, and it's only gonna get more gay, so either fuck off or deal with it. Anyway, I am so happy that Bill and Frank's relationship was really expanded on in the show. Episode 3 is definitely like probably my second favorite from season 1. I absolutely fell in love with them. And I don't think, granted, it's been a minute, but I'm pretty sure that we don't actually get to interact with Frank in the game, because hasn't he already unalived himself by the time Joel and Ellie get to Bill's compound? I'm pretty sure that's what happens. But like, obviously through reading the notes that Bill and Frank wrote to each other, you put together the pieces of their relationship. But if you don't read those notes, you just don't know. You just find this, because you find the, I feel like I'm trying to, I hope I'm not misremembering this. I think you find Frank, maybe? Or you just, or at least you just hear that he has unalived himself. Yeah. But yeah, so their like relationship is really just like in those passing notes that I like are pretty easy to miss if I'm not mistaken, right? But so I thought it was so wonderful that not only was their relationship expanded on the show, they got a whole ass episode like just about them, which I thought was so cool. And I'm glad that they got a somewhat happy ending, if you want to call it that, maybe. I mean, they at least got to be together in the end, which is definitely a step up from how it ended for them in the game. Listen, in the apocalypse, a win is a win. A win is a win. Getting to grow old, like watching them grow old together, a win is a win. And as for Ellie and Riley, they were perfect. I'll touch on this more later, but Ellie and Riley are so important to me, and the adaptation of their relationship, their story, it was just so much better than I could have ever imagined. They were so cute, even though they shattered my heart into a million little pieces all over again, but it's fine. I'm fine. But even so, something I'm really glad that the show was able to do in both of these relationships, despite there being tragedy present in both, was the fact that we still got to see these really beautiful moments of queer joy for both of these couples. Like, we got to see Bill and Frank just living this peaceful little life together for a good amount of years. And even though Ellie and Riley's time together was significantly shorter, we still got to see these little glimpses of them just being goofy, silly little kids, no matter how brief those moments may have been. Again, The Last of Us is a story that takes place in a literal apocalypse. There is tragedy and death for everyone, but there are also these pockets of joy, and I'm so glad that these wonderfully complex queer characters got to have those moments too. Okay, to round out this video, I'm gonna do a little rapid fire of all of my favorites from The Last of Us show. Starting with my favorite character. It was so hard to pick a favorite because I love so many of the characters in The Last of Us, and all of the actors had such great performances. But if I had to pick just one, I would probably have to go with Joel. But it's very close. Like, he just barely beats out, like, Ellie for me. I'm such a sucker for the Joel, like, character archetype and character journey. Like, there is just something about these gritty, hardened characters who have experienced either just, like, a lot of loss or have lost someone very significant, very close to them, and it's completely changed the way they see the world, and they just see how like terrible the world can be, particularly in this case because apocalypse. But then there's that other character who comes in and like gives them like a reason to like believe in like the good of the world. Again, no, it literally makes me so ill just thinking about it. I don't know what to say. It gets me every time, man. It is one of my favorite like kind of character journeys to witness, also to write, and Joel is such a perfect example of it. And I love Joel, and I love Pedro Pascal's performance as Joel. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Troy Baker. Troy Baker's Joel will always be so iconic, and I'm so glad that we got to have Troy Baker in the show. But as a live action Joel, I mean, come on. Pedro Pascal he was absolutely the perfect choice. He was fucking phenomenal in this role. Like, it's a no-brainer. Okay, that was not so rapid fire of me, but Anyway, moving on to my favorite episode. My favorite episode from season 1 was episode 7, Left Behind. Neil really did something with this episode. I have always loved the Left Behind DLC, and fun fact, the Left Behind DLC actually came out on my 12th birthday, which I feel is incredibly iconic. Also makes me feel incredibly old. But so when I saw that Left Behind was a title for an episode in the show, I literally almost exploded. I was so excited, and Neil delivered. But he's not the only one. Bella Ramsey and Storm Reed did not come to play with this episode. Oh my gosh, their chemistry as Ellie and Riley was, it was so perfect. Literally perfection. No notes, just they had me screaming, crying, throwing up. They absolutely altered my brain chemistry. Again, Ellie and Riley have such an important place in my heart because they were really important queer representation for me growing up. And so the fact that they were done justice in the show, it literally means everything to me. All right, next, I wanted to mention my favorite scene from the show. My absolute favorite scene, and granted, again, this was another hard one, but when it comes down to it, I definitely would have to say that my favorite scene from the show is when Tess is about to sacrifice herself for Joel and Ellie to get away, and she says the "save who you can save." While I'm at it, that line is my favorite line in the entire show, and the way that Anna Torv delivers it gets me every time. I watched that scene and I was like, wow, this is cinema right here. Like, they really did something with this scene. Speaking of cinema, we have to talk about the hospital sequence in the last episode because it is the most perfect part of the show and my favorite sequence in the show and possibly in any show ever. I mean, if you know the game, you know that hospital sequence is literally so iconic. Like, that is like one of the most iconic things in all of like video game history. And so it was very meaningful and important to me that they did it justice. It's just wow. Like, again, I was like, this is cinema. This is art. Once again, rent must have been due because literally everyone, the cast, the crew, Craig, Neil, everyone a part of that episode, they delivered. They really delivered. The direction, the music, the acting, the Laura Bailey cameo, like literally all the parts just like worked together so perfectly. They just came together so well. I truly could not have asked for a better live action like adaptation of, again, one of the most iconic sequences in all of video game history. Okay, and lastly, to round out this favorite section, I quickly wanted to highlight some of my favorite new cast members, and those favorite new cast members are Nico Parker as Sarah and Kevon Montreal Woodard as Sam. Nico Parker absolutely killed it as Sarah. My heart broke a million times over because I liked her so much. She was so sweet and funny and playful. I loved her banter and her dynamic with Pedro Pascal as Joel. Oh my god, but it's like, obviously, if you know the game, you know what's coming. Like, it's the scene. It is the scene. And it's just like, knowing that it was gonna happen did not make it any easier. But that just shows that even though her time in the show was very short, because again, we all know what happens. We all know what it's leading up to. Like, it just shows that Nico Parker played that character so well. And she's just fantastic. Oh my gosh, I adore her. I also really loved the decision to age down Sam and make him deaf by bringing on Kevon Montreal Woodard. Like, oh my goodness, that boy is an absolute gem. I cannot wait to see what he does in his career because he is so talented. He brought so much depth to the character of Sam. I mean, already from the game, like, Sam was already a really interesting character, but I just feel like Kevon brought even more layers to this character, and having the representation of a deaf character was so cool and also just so important. But of course, he also broke my heart because, again, Sam's one of those characters where it's just like, you know what's coming, you know what's gonna happen to him, because nothing good can just ever stay in this fucking universe. It's like, you can't just be happy for too long. Like, we have to come in and cause you pain. And I love it, but it also hurts me so much. But I absolutely loved Kevon as Sam. He was so good, and his performance gets me every time. All right, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Talking about the show has just made me want to rewatch it, so I might go do that after I finish this video. But also, oh my god, did you guys see I think it might have just been the one still, but for season 2 of Pedro, I'm actually so unwell just thinking about it. Oh my god, I don't think we've gotten a date, because I think they're still filming out, so I don't think we've gotten a date for when we're actually gonna get season 2. But oh my god, I am both incredibly excited but also incredibly nervous. Like, I know they're gonna break my heart again, but I'm still so excited, and I'm really excited to see Isabella Merced as Dina. I'm also curious to see who they're gonna cast as Lev and Yara, because I don't think we've gotten those casting announcements, which makes me wonder if that means they're not in season 2. So, like, I'm very curious to see, like, how season 2 is gonna work, and, like, if there's, like, a season 3, like, if they're gonna... Because, to be fair, The Last of Us Part 2 is a pretty fucking long game. So maybe they're gonna split it up. And so they're gonna do like half of it covering it in season 2 and then half of it covering it in season 3. If they get a season 3. I can't imagine. They're probably getting a season 3. And then we'll see Lev and Yara. I hope so, because I love Lev. Lev is my favorite character in all of The Last of Us. I love him so much. And I really am interested to see who they cast for him. Personally, I would love to see Ian Alexander reprise their role. But I'm sure that whoever they bring on for Lev will be amazing. Okay, that's enough yapping for now. Once again, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I upload Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, except when I don't. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.